allies in America will be on Iowa. After months of campaigning, which Republican will pull to the top? We're bringing you live Team 4 coverage from across Siouxland and from caucus headquarters in Des Moines. Live from Signal Hill, this is a special edition of KTIV News 4, the Iowa Caucuses.
Former President Donald Trump is declared the winner of the 2024 Iowa Caucuses. Those results come just 30 minutes after Iowans began gathering in precincts across the state to caucus. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jessica Bowman. Less than 1% of the vote was tallied before that decision was made final. In this special edition of KTIV News 4 at 10, first we hear from Iowa caucus goers.
When he was president, I made more money than my whole life in 4 years he was here.
Have some others I'll consider based on what I hear today, but right now I'm leaning towards Ron.
I think it's great that there's a viable woman running in the Republican Party.
Vivek Ramaswamy, I just believe the guy, and I think he's what we need right now.
Our KTIV News 4 team coverage takes us to Des Moines tonight. KTIV's Matt Breen and Iowa political director Dave Price join us live breaking down the results. And it looks like they are going to join us momentarily, but first it looks like former President Donald Trump has taken the stage. We take you to Des Moines live.
The group of people that we have on the stage is just emblematic of the tremendous group that we've had. We've had such a great team. You know, we did well. We were looking really good in 2016. And just to go back to the senator, he was saying, I said, who is that guy? Brad, his name. Who is he? He keeps endorsing me. He keeps saying Trump. And I didn't even know I was running. He endorsed me 4 months before I knew I was running, about 4 months before the Escalade ride down with our great First Lady. And that was Brad. I said, who is he? So he was the first one. But we have people that are so incredible. Your Republican Party Chairman Bobby Kaufman and his son, who is a brilliant guy, and he worked with us. And I will tell you, that is a family of real professionals. Matt Whitaker, who is the very talented and very good Attorney General. Where is Matt? He's around here someplace, and he's been with us all the way. You know, we have a man that was very impressive. And I say, there's nothing wrong with it. He's so solid and so good that he didn't catch on. Sometimes being a little controversial is good. He's so perfect. Although he did break his leg during the campaign. That wasn't so good. But it sort of stood out a little bit, Doug. But Doug Burgum from...
All right, so that was a live look in as former President Donald Trump took the stage tonight in Des Moines after he was declared with more than 50% of the vote in Iowa this evening. So we're going to speak with Director of Iowa's Politics, Dave Price, as well as KTIV's Matt Breen here shortly. But before we do that, I want to bring you back to Siouxland. Matt Hoffman has spent the evening at a caucus site in Woodbury County. A lot of elements playing out during that caucus site tonight. Anything that you found interesting, Matt?
Yeah, Jessica, I think so. It's interesting as we're walking in the studio here. Ron DeSantis had the lead on Nikki Haley statewide, meaning DeSantis is currently in second place, but it was actually the opposite in these two precincts we were at, where Haley finished second and DeSantis third. Now, time will tell if those results will hold for Woodbury County or even what will happen across the entire state. Lines were out the door at North Middle School, the voting location for multiple precincts in Woodbury County. Former President Donald Trump winning the county and the two precincts at the school with a total of 104 votes. Cold temperatures outside did not dampen spirits inside. The bleachers here at North Middle School were full of people ready to cast their ballot.
I think it's a fantastic turnout, and it shows the support that the people that support him, because he's not a politician. He is here for the people.
Former Ambassador Nikki Haley finished second at the two North Middle precincts. She didn't have the visible support that former President Donald Trump had, but her voters delivered her a second-place finish with 43 votes.
And in my viewpoint, she wins hands down. And then I look at electability, and if she's the candidate, then Republicans win by double digit.
Governor Ron DeSantis also had visible support Monday, those supporters donning orange gear to show their allegiance. DeSantis finishing with 37 votes across the two precincts at North Middle.
I like what he's done in Florida. He seems like he's a man of his word. He says things and then he does them. And that's what I like in a candidate.
A first-time caucus goer spoke in support of Vivek Ramaswamy, who finished with 14 votes, good for 4th place at the middle school precincts.
I think we have a good turnout. I don't know what it typically looks like, but I mean, to me, I think people came out, they battled the weather.
All right, great coverage there. And, you know, 2 important topics that I want to talk about here, Matt. First of all, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has finished second among many Iowans, but here at this caucus site, that was not the case.
Yeah, that's right, Jessica. That was actually flipped at these 2 precincts at that one caucus site. Obviously, you got to wait and see what happens there. And there was actually one young voter who spoke in support of Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. It looked like some young voter turnout tonight in Woodbury County.
There was a few young voters, predominantly older voters, as we expected. But like I said, one spoke for Mr. Ramaswamy, and that was pretty interesting.
All right, thank you, Matt Hoffman, for that coverage. And as we continue our caucus coverage tonight on KTIV, you know, it wasn't just Republicans caucusing tonight in the state of Iowa, though they're the only ones reporting results this evening. Iowa Democrats also gathered at caucus sites across the state tonight to discuss party business, and a lot different than done years prior. KTIV's Irvin Doman explains.
Although most eyes were focused over on the GOP side of things on caucus night, that didn't stop the Woodbury County Democrats from organizing in what they call a grassroots effort to try and build Democrat leadership up from local government levels all the way to national government.
This year we have tried to have a more inclusive caucus by having a 2-part process for the grassroots organizing in person on caucus night, as well as the mail-in preference cards, which is still ongoing.
Those mail-in cards can be requested all the way up until February 19th using the Iowa Democrats website. Even though no results came out Monday night for the Democratic Party, officials were pleased with the participation, especially considering the conditions.
Given how cold it was, given the lack of expectations and a lot of, not much focus on what's going on with the presidential side for the Democrats, it was a really good turnout.
Officials also pointed out they saw a good amount of people from key precincts, which they think is a good sign for the future of the Democratic Party, and more specifically, the results of the caucus that will be available on March 5th.
I was excited about those who turned up tonight to get more Democrats involved, to elect more Democrats from the local level to the state legislature, the county board of supervisors, and also at the national level.
In Sioux City, Irvin Doman, KTIV News 4.
And good evening from Des Moines, where we know 2 things for certain at this hour, Dave. 1, Donald Trump, the former president of the United States, will win the Iowa Republican caucus. And 2, we don't know who's going to finish in second place.
Right, and it looks like Trump will have a historic win. Never has anybody received such a high percentage of the caucus total. He's straddling above 50% barely here, and that could be probably the minimum of what he really wanted, because then it's 50% for him, 50% for everybody else. But he is so far ahead of second place. Ron DeSantis has been holding on to second place, and the party is saying, according to this release, we're probably getting pretty close to the final numbers, so these numbers may not jump too much.
And Ron DeSantis criticizing the release of the numbers, and also the declaration that Donald Trump was the projected winner by numerous media outlets tonight.
And that's where it gets a little funky here, because we don't normally have this scenario. It's usually more competitive. But some of these media organizations do entrance polling. They talk to people as they're about to go into the caucus site to see how they're going to caucus. Because the numbers were so in favor of Donald Trump, they could project him the winner. The problem was you still had thousands of Iowans who hadn't even caucused yet. So DeSantis' campaign is furious, saying that that could influence how somebody might caucus.
Nikki Haley, though, regardless of whether she finishes second or third, will move on to New Hampshire, where she's doing very well, second in the polls only to Donald Trump. And then the next state after that, her home state of South Carolina.
Yeah, so it lays out a little better for her, and she's trying to become the final Trump alternative. For DeSantis, he's going to have to figure out how to spin a state where he said he was going to win and may end up losing by about 30 points to Donald Trump, how that is enough of a showing for him to continue on.
So the vote's still being counted. We know Donald Trump will win the Iowa caucuses. Question now, who finishes second? For Dave Price, I'm Matt Breen in Des Moines. Now back to you.
All right, Matt and Dave, thank you for that live update from Des Moines. And as we zero in here on the numbers, where these percentages are coming from, we're going to bring you back here to Siouxland. I'm joined with KTIV's Katie Koppel. It was a heated scene this evening. You were in Lamar's at the caucus site there. Katie's going to talk to us a little more about that heated debate as well as the turnout. So let's first start with what kind of heated things up tonight?
Yeah, it did get a little heated tonight, Jessica, but honestly, it was a standing room only crowd tonight at the Lamar's Convention Center, where 4 Plymouth County precincts were represented tonight. Now, ahead of tonight's caucus, Plymouth County GOP officials told me they were expecting around 300 to turn out tonight from those 4 precincts, but it didn't take long before that line was out the door and they ran out of chairs. Now, Mike Van Otterloo from the Plymouth County GOP says Plymouth County is a great representation of what Iowans are looking for in a presidential candidate.
I think it is a good cross-section of what the country is looking at. I think that Plymouth Countyans, Iowans, just have the basics. Good common sense, good people, hardworking, and they want to see the country go in the right direction so that their kids and grandkids, including my own, can prosper 20 or 30 years from now. So a real genuine dedication to hard work and wanting the best for the kids.
Now, among the crowd were many young voters tonight. First-time caucus goer tells me he recently turned 18, and while he wasn't sure who he was going to caucus for tonight, he was excited for the opportunity to take part in something like this.
Not yet, no. I want to get more information. I don't know a whole much about the whole political world. I want to be more knowledgeable, more involved, and yeah, I want to figure out tonight. This is something that's going to affect me the rest of my life, and I'm going to vote a lot of times, I hope. And I want to know as much as I can about the stuff that's going to affect me, my family, like laws. So yeah, I want to make my vote count.
Now, out of 501 votes tonight, 297 were for former President Donald Trump, 93 for Ron DeSantis, and 66 for Nikki Haley.
Well, as we take a look at those numbers, Katie, more than half of the supporters supporting former President Trump. Did that have anything to do with the heated debate tonight?
Yeah, so while those in Plymouth County were up on stage speaking about President Trump and while you should vote for him or the people there should vote for him, there was a little bit of a heated argument from someone who is opposed to having Trump back in the White House, and a little heated up there, a lot of yelling, a lot of booing. But honestly, it remained calm for most of the night, and I mean, Iowans just showed out for the First in the Nation caucus.
Definitely so. Thank you for that update, Katie. As we continue our coverage this evening, the Iowa Caucus conversation continues right now on KTIV.com. You can see the numbers, the candidates, and learn more about what's next in New Hampshire by downloading the KTIV News 4 app for continuing coverage. The KTIV News 4 app is free to download right now in the Apple App Store and Google Play.
From Signal Hill, this is a special edition of KTIV News 4, the Iowa Caucuses.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying up with us tonight. We turn our attention to Sioux County, historically one of the reddest counties in all Iowa. Clayton Anderson was at the caucus site tonight. Clayton, let's talk more about the turnout this evening and what happened in Hull, Iowa this evening.
Yeah, the turnout was pretty good, Jessica. In Hull, Iowa, there was about 236 people that came to caucus, but it was Trump winning with around 52% of the votes. Only 2 representatives got up to speak for candidates. Those candidates were former President Donald Trump and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. DeSantis was in a close second place with 95 votes compared to Trump's 123. Congressman Randy Feenstra, who lives in Hull, says the high voter turnout showcases the pride Sioux County voters have.
We have a huge turnout in Hull, Iowa tonight. This is my precinct, and I'm so thrilled to see all these people here. This is our civic duty to come here and caucus, be first in the nation, and we get to decide who we believe should be president. So this is a great turnout, especially when it's cold weather like this. It's awesome.
Additionally, Jessica, Governor DeSantis did well in 2 other caucus locations within the county where he actually won those locations. So a real true two-legged race in Sioux County from what I saw.
Definitely so. Clayton Anderson, thanks for that live update. And as we continue our coverage tonight, new numbers coming in. I just want to give you an update. 94% of the state of Iowa is reporting totals. And again, we'll continue to update those numbers throughout the evening right here on KTIV News 4. Well, a number of Iowa counties combined all of their precincts into single site location tonight, like Dickinson County and the Iowa Great Lakes, one of those particular locations. That's where we find KTIV's Connor Trett. He was at that Super Caucus site and gives us the latest from Okoboji.
I'm at the Dickinson County Super Precinct, also known as the Arrowwood Resort in Okoboji, Iowa, where the Dickinson County Caucus just announced their final results. Former President Donald Trump, the runaway favorite with over 50% of the vote. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis coming in second, Nikki Haley in third, and Vivek Ramaswamy coming in fourth. I was able to talk with some of the poll workers after tonight, and they said that despite sub-zero temperatures, the turnout tonight was nothing short of amazing.
On a cold night in Iowa, it's still -10, wind chill -27, and we had between 800 and 900 people here. So it was amazing, and it was wonderful to see them all turn out because they know this is the most important election in a very long time. It determines the future of this country.
And after the results were tabulated, we caught up with one of Trump's supporters and asked them how the Iowa caucus could set the tone for the New Hampshires, the South Carolinas, and future caucuses taking place later this year.
If we want our country back, there's only one choice, and that choice is Trump, because he did it before and he can do it again. And he needs to implement back in everything that he had going on when he was in office, and we'll start building America and making it great again.
And that's going to wrap it up for me here in Dickinson County. I'll toss it back to the desk.
All right, Connor Trett, thanks for that update. Well, of course, a big night in Des Moines. Right now, our Team 4 coverage continues live from Des Moines. That's where we find KTIV's Matt Breen. He joins us with more details tonight. And Matt, I want to get straight into the numbers. You were on site as those numbers started rolling in.
So let's talk about those numbers, Jessica, because we have two distinct data streams we're talking about here. One that you've been reporting throughout the evening tonight are the numbers that are coming through the Associated Press election stream. The numbers we're seeing here at the Media Center are being reported directly through the Iowa Republican Party website, and there is a vast difference. You quoted 94% just a moment ago. What the party is telling us is that 76% of Iowa's counties' results have been approved, so a bit of a disparity there. Also, what you need to consider is these numbers might not change a lot over the course of the rest of the evening. Here's why. Jeff Kaufman, who is the chair of the Iowa Republican Party, had said they thought it would be about 100,000 votes in total for the Iowa Republican Caucus. Again, far short of the record set in 2016 of 186,000. But he doesn't think the numbers will go much beyond where they are now. And according to the numbers we're seeing, it's about 103,000. So these numbers may not change much, which means, as we've known since about 7:30 tonight, Donald Trump wins the Iowa Republican Caucus. The question now, who finishes second? If there's not a lot of movement and not many more votes to be counted, we know Ron DeSantis will finish second and Nikki Haley will finish third.
Great information. And Matt, another question I want to bring to your attention. You know, of course, you've had a front seat to many Iowa caucuses in years past. So have you ever seen a result declared so quickly?
It was quick. I think quicker than it needed to be, and that's measured only by the anger of Ron DeSantis' campaign. His campaign manager saying it is absolutely absurd that media outlets such as ABC, NBC, CBS, the Associated Press, all calling the race at about 7:30 when, as Dave Price mentioned just a few minutes ago, some of those caucus sites had not begun voting. There's procedural business that has to be done first, and then they can vote. But everyone has a smartphone in their hand, and of course they're getting the alerts from those media outlets that said Donald Trump was the projected winner, and maybe some of them thought, well, rather than caucus for Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis as I had planned, I may not cast my vote for them because I know neither one of them are going to win since Donald Trump was declared the winner, the projected winner by several media outlets.
KTIV's Matt Breen, a wealth of knowledge from Des Moines tonight. Thank you so much for joining us live. We'll, of course, check in with you throughout the evening. We are going to take you live to Des Moines with a little more than 7% of the votes tonight in Iowa. Falls Vivek Ramaswamy in fourth. He just took the podium. Let's take a live listen in.
Country out from underneath us. We're not going to let that happen. We're going to take this movement to the next level. And I think after that, It's another 250 years and then some still left ahead of us. And if you all continue to join us in this journey, I'm going to ask you to do that. We're just getting warmed up. If you all do your part, and we're going to do ours, our best days as a nation still will as yet be ahead of us. So thank you guys for coming today. God bless you and your families, and may God bless our United States of America. Appreciate that, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right, so we just heard that live coverage from Vivek Ramaswamy, who has finished fourth as of right now in the GOP standings here from the state of Iowa. Those numbers coming in from the Associated Press. At last check, 95% across the state of Iowa have been reported. All right, I'm just getting word that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has just taken the stage in Des Moines following his run in second place. Let's go ahead and send things back out live to Des Moines to listen in. All right, so it looks like we're having a bit of technical difficulty. It looks like we are going to get Florida Governor Ron DeSantis here momentarily. But until then, again, I want to add in that he received more than 21.3% of the votes coming in from the state of Iowa. So it looks like he may have just stepped off the podium. So, of course, we will continue to have that coverage for you tonight on KTIV.com. Our Iowa caucus coverage will continue online as well as on airs. It looks like we are getting live feeds back in from Des Moines. Looks like we're going to send things back out to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who is back on the podium.
To give this country a new birth of freedom and a restoration of sanity. That's what we are going to do. So we have our marching orders. Our marching orders are to do all we can to preserve what George Washington called the sacred fire of liberty. The same fire that burned in Philadelphia in 1776 when our founding fathers signed the Declaration of Independence. The same sacred fire of liberty that burned at a cemetery in Gettysburg.
Live from Signal Hill, this is a special edition of KTIV News 4, the Iowa Caucuses.
A wealth of knowledge coming in live from Des Moines tonight. We're going to send things back out to KTIV's Matt Breen. If you are just joining us, we just mentioned that Vivek Ramaswamy has suspended his campaign. Matt, what can you tell us about that this evening?
So I listened to the press conference that Vivek Ramaswamy just conducted here in Des Moines, announcing that he was suspending his campaign for president, but in the same breath also said his America First agenda would move forward and that he, his wife, his family, they weren't going anywhere. But again, that's something brand new since we started the newscast. And I'll remind you of the two things off the top of tonight's newscast that I said we knew for sure. One, Donald Trump would win the Iowa Republican caucus. He did. By our math right now, he's got just north of 50% of Republican caucus goers. And the other thing, the second thing I said we knew for sure is we wouldn't know who finished in second place. Well, we now do. The Associated Press saying that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis will finish in second place, Nikki Haley finishing in third, and from here, all of those candidates except for Ramaswamy move on to New Hampshire.
Hey, and speaking of New Hampshire, Matt, that is my next question. 8 days away, that's how far we are from New Hampshire. Are we seeing any candidates possibly getting to New Hampshire this evening to push for votes ahead?
I don't doubt that some of the candidates, as soon as they stepped off the stage, wherever they were tonight, in announcing their remarks following tonight's finish of the Iowa caucuses, stepped from that stage onto a plane to fly to New Hampshire to begin campaigning tomorrow. Because, as you said, it's 8 days. It's a very tight window. And while some of those candidates have already been in New Hampshire, Nikki Haley making a big run in New Hampshire right now. She's second only to Donald Trump in the latest polling, only about 7 points back. They all need to get on the ground and hit the ground running to do as well as they can in New Hampshire, especially Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who in that same poll is polling fourth with just 5% support.
Interesting numbers there. Thank you, Matt, for that perspective. It looks like we're going to turn our attention to former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley. She's speaking right now. We're going to take you out to her site.
I want to thank my sweet brother who came out here and was caucusing for me. A good Desert Storm veteran, and I want to thank my other siblings there. I want to thank Michael's parents, Bill and Carol Haley, who've been fantastic along the way as well. You can't do this without the strength of your family. I want to congratulate President Trump on his win tonight. We have had an amazing 11 months here in the Hawkeye State. I came to Iowa early and often, and I kept coming back, even though the cold weather is brutal. But the kindness of Iowans will never be lost on me. You're faithful, patriotic, and hardworking Americans, and I will forever be grateful for the time that we had. At one point in this campaign, there were 14 of us running. I was at 2% in the polls. But tonight, Iowa did what Iowa always does so well. The pundits will analyze the results from every angle. We get that. But when you look at how we're doing in New Hampshire, in South Carolina, and beyond,
all right, you just heard from former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley with a smile on her face this evening, taking the poll and congratulating former President Donald Trump as he has taken the win here in the Iowa caucuses. Now, as we continue our coverage, I want to take you back out live to Des Moines. Of course, that's where we find KTIV's Matt Breen, along with Iowa political director Dave Price. They have been tracking numbers. They have been tracking candidates. They have been tracking full coverage throughout the night on the Iowa caucuses. I'm joined with them live tonight just to break down a little more in-depth information on what has happened tonight. And again, a historic win for former President Donald Trump.
Jessica, you're right about that. An historic win for Donald Trump. North of 50% of the vote in the Iowa Republican caucus, and that's not something we have ever seen in the Iowa caucuses since 1972.
Right. We've never seen a former president run again
That's
either.
true.
So historic for a lot of reasons. And Trump was such a big factor all throughout this campaign. And looking at the final numbers, you're going to essentially have half of the voters wanted Trump, half of the voters wanted somebody else.
So who will that alternative be? We know that Ron DeSantis is moving on to New Hampshire. We know Nikki Haley is moving on to New Hampshire. They finished Ron DeSantis in second, Nikki Haley in third.
Right, and it'll end up being fairly close between those two here, where DeSantis clearly had spent far more time. This is nothing like a win for him. He's going to finish 30 points behind Trump and had said he was going to win here. So that margin is enormous. He's hardly going to New Hampshire with a mandate. And if you look at the New Hampshire polls, he's so far down there, he's going to have to figure out how to become competitive there. Now, we're going to lose some candidates, and Ramaswamy's out. But not that he was a big factor there, and Chris Christie's already out, who was a factor there. So maybe there's enough room for three people there. But DeSantis clearly wanted to do so much better, and Haley is far better positioned there. It's a primary. Independents are more apt to take part in New Hampshire's primary, so it's better terrain, and she's closer in the polls there. So DeSantis is really swimming upstream.
And you, as you said, Haley well positioned in New Hampshire. She's just 7 points behind Donald Trump in the latest polling there, so she's running second. If she can finish second, she then moves on to her home state of South Carolina, where she should do very, very well.
Although Trump is winning in the polls
Right.
there, so for Haley, yes, she could probably survive and go on to South Carolina if she could have a pretty close second, but she's going to win first. She at some point, somebody has to beat Trump if there's ever a hope of somebody else becoming the nominee. It doesn't look like DeSantis is doing it unless he has a humongous turnaround in the next 8 days, which seems very, very unlikely. So Haley's going to want to win there or finish super close and then hope that somehow translates into her home state.
I want to bring Vivek Ramaswamy into this now, announcing within the last 20 minutes he would suspend his campaign for president. I don't think that's what he meant when he talked for weeks about shocking the world after the Iowa caucuses.
And he also said he was going to win, and it kept saying the polls were wrong. Look, if you wake up tomorrow morning and look at these final numbers, because they should be final by then, and then compare them to the Des Moines Register's Iowa poll. They're pretty close. The way this all shook out. Now, a few points here and there, and Haley and DeSantis are going to end up flip-flopping. DeSantis will get second. The poll had him third, although it was close. It shows that the polls are pretty accurate, the way Ann Seltzer does these polls. Ramaswamy has never been competitive. Right. It's essentially he's tried to position himself really as a younger version of Trump. He praised Trump all the time. Trump ripped the heck out of him the other day, and Ramaswamy didn't really respond to it and just, it's okay. And, now he's endorsing Trump. So nothing is shocking with any of that, and he never really became a factor despite all the time and effort he put into the state.
The counting continues. There aren't that many votes outstanding, so we think the numbers will hold where they are. But, of course, we're going to continue to follow it both on air and online from the Caucus Center here in Des Moines. For Dave Price, I'm Matt Breen. Jessica, back to you.
Absolutely. And if we can still pull up Matt and Dave, I do have a question. Are we still able to speak with them? Are they hearing us tonight? All right, it looks like we are good. So I do want to ask, y'all have been able to hear from Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, Donald Trump. Has any of the GOP candidates made any indication as to kind of some speculation as to what they thought about the being called so early tonight in the Iowa caucuses?
The question, Dave, and I'll repeat it for you, was there reaction, a lot of reaction, be it positive or negative, from any of the candidates that the race was projected so early? And we know the answer to that. The DeSantis campaign could not be any more vocal in their disagreement with major media outlets calling the race at 7:30 when in some caucus sites people hadn't voted yet.
A lot of caucus sites probably. And yet another unique factor of this. Typically, these caucus campaigns are competitive. Usually 2 or 3 people coming into the night have a pretty decent shot at winning. That really wasn't the case this time around. Trump was so far ahead of everyone. The way these media organizations, these large ones, do it, they're talking to people as they come into the caucus in these entrance polls. Now, you could always say you're supporting somebody and then go inside and be swayed to support somebody else. But because they had talked to so many people and the results were so lopsided, they felt comfortable declaring it. Now, they are going to have to explain why they felt that was the right thing to do when people hadn't caucused yet. In a regular general election, that doesn't happen. You don't project a winner when people haven't finished voting yet. They did in this case. DeSantis' team was furious and lashed out about it. And we don't really know if it made any difference.
And here is the quote from Governor Ron DeSantis' campaign manager. He said this in a statement: "What happened tonight is appalling. The media calling the race for Donald Trump before votes had been cast. I personally spoke in multiple precincts in front of hundreds of voters. And while I'm presenting and delivering the closing arguments around just for Ron DeSantis and actually flipping voters, people start getting alerts on their phones saying the race is over before it's even." One guy said, why do we even bother voting if it's already over? That is absurd.
And it does break historical norms, but again, it's because it's not usually this lopsided. Now, there's no reason to believe that this would have changed the outcome. Right. And DeSantis got second anyway, unless it somehow convinced some Haley people to bail out or something. Nonetheless, this is not the way this normally works, and so you can see why some of these other campaigns would be pretty upset. I haven't seen anything from Haley's team about this, and clearly they wanted to get second. They wanted to try to knock DeSantis out. This will probably be perhaps one more reason why DeSantis stays in the race, and then he can point to this. But again, he's going to have to go back to his donors and his supporters explaining how a 30-point loss to Trump here justifies him going forward and what his path is.
Indeed. Jessica?
All right, no more questions from KTIV studio here in Sioux City. Thank you for that live report again from Des Moines. KTIV's Matt Breen, along with Iowa Political Director Dave Price. We, of course, have appreciated their time throughout the night as they have weighed in depth during the Iowa caucuses all throughout the evening. Now, as we take a look at this, I want to the numbers that are coming in. Now, as Matt Breen mentioned a little earlier, they're getting different numbers from the Secretary of State's office there in Des Moines. That is the certified numbers. The results that we're seeing here right now are from the Associated Press. And this is the totals right now. And we're seeing, again, Donald Trump, obviously, with more than 50% of the vote. And I want to zoom in here and I want to talk a little bit about Siouxland in particular. Let's start with Woodbury County. We're seeing the results from the Associated Press. It says 100% are reporting now. And so you're seeing Donald Trump with 56.6, and this specifically in Woodbury County. Ron DeSantis following with a little more than 21% of the lead there in second. And then Nikki Haley in third. So I wanted to point that out for you as we continue to follow along with the latest numbers coming in. But again, it just said that 100% was reporting, and but as for state, again, the statewide look is 97%. So that's the update there. Of course, as we have mentioned all throughout the night, our Iowa caucus coverage continues online right now at KTIV.com. We appreciate you tuning in to this special edition of News 4 at 10. For the newest updates, make sure and download the KTIV News 4 app. Have a wonderful evening. Our coverage will continue tomorrow morning on News 4 Today.
In Gettysburg.